Hi,
True.
everybody. Thanks for your patience. I'm Jody Franklin, and I'm here with my friend Andrea Nakayama. And I have to say, I've been stalking Andrea for years, and I'm so glad to get her in this group because, in all honesty, when people ask me what schools I went to previously and how I started my functional training, I always say I kind of wish I had done her program, and I'm excited to say I'm going to do her program upcoming, which I'm really excited about. But I wanted to invite you, give you a little background on Andrea. She is a brilliant functional medicine nutritionist, a narrative medicine practitioner, and founder of Functional Nutrition Alliance. She has trained thousands of coaches and practitioners, clinicians around the world on her online program, Full Body Systems, so they can apply her systems based trauma informed approach in their own businesses. And today I am super excited. She's going to talk about the top three tools you can use in functional medicine for your practice. And I can't wait to hear this. So, Andrea, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you and with your community. And I just want to thank you all for being here live today. I know time is valuable. I'm so glad you chose to spend it here exploring the powers of functional nutrition in practice. I'm so passionate about this. I really see its importance in how we deliver client care and how it fills many of the gaps, as I hope to share with you today. And I'd like our time together today to be a little bit less of a lecture and more of a working session, but I do have some concepts I'll be presenting to kick us off, just as Jody mentioned. So I'll be talking about the three key frameworks for complex cases, and these are functional nutrition tools to clarify complexity and guide client care. And Jody, feel free to interrupt me at any time if there's something that comes up that needs clarification from the chat. So again,
Absolutely.
yeah, and we can share, we have some specials for folks that are here today. So that link is something we can share at any time. Okay, I'm going to go back and forth between the screen share and the me share, the us share, and I'll also be able to then see the chat as well. So before we dive in, I just want to name something that we all have likely felt, and that is the pull towards protocols and quick fixes. And protocols promise some kind of certainty. If X, then Y. But complex cases rarely follow that formula. And protocols can leave both the practitioner and our clients feeling stuck, frustrated, and searching for the next fix. Has anyone else felt this before? What's the protocol for this? What do I do? Where do I get this? And
It's
that
so funny.
anxiety, yeah,
It's
totally.
funny you should mention it because in the group we always have people asking, "Do you have a protocol for this?" And I'm thinking,
Totally.
protocols do not always work because there's always outliers. So I love that you're talking about frameworks.
Yes, absolutely. And it's so important. So, frameworks, as you mentioned, Jody, give us a way to organize the complexity. They help us hold the unknowns and spot connections and create truly individualized care. And they shift us from asking, how do I treat this diagnosis, which is the domain of protocols and often out of scope, to asking, why is this happening in this unique person, in this unique way, at this moment in time? That's the domain of frameworks. I know I have Hashimoto's, and not any two people with Hashimoto's are going to respond to the same protocol. It's not even outliers. We all got to the same tipping point for different reasons. That tipping point is that our immune system is attacking tissue in our thyroid. That's the tipping point. But what got us there is different, and what's going to unravel that is also going to be different. And this shift that we're talking about to frameworks from protocols requires curiosity and critical thinking. And sometimes we need tools and frameworks, what I often call mental models, to help us embrace curiosity and critical thinking. So there is a term in Zen Buddhism called Shoshin, and it's the term that's related to the beginner's mind. So even when we are experts in our clinical proficiency, we still benefit from coming at things with a beginner's mind. And Shoshin asks us to release preconceptions so we can actually see what's there. And the author, Shunryu Suzuki, who's the author of Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, says in the beginner's mind, there are endless possibilities. In the expert's mind, there are few. And this is what brings us into this idea that we open up to possibility instead of thinking through the narrow. The organizational psychologist, and I just listened to a great podcast with him yesterday, Adam Grant, describes something similar in his book, Think Again, saying that the best thinkers don't just keep an open mind, they are actively open minded. They revise their views as they learn. And for us, that applies to learning about the person who has the signs, symptoms, or diagnosis, not just the signs, symptoms, or diagnosis alone. And that's the stance I'd like to ask us to hold today, to be open, curious, and ready to explore frameworks that can bring both you and your clients more clarity. So let's explore a little bit more why we need a framework and what those frameworks can look like. Okay? So when you're in the thick of a complex case, the instinct is what? It's to go hunting, right? We go hunting. Where's the answer? Where do I find it? Who has it? Which training do I need? Which practitioner do I need to follow? What do they do? And I get it. Hunting for that one lab test, that one protocol, the one supplement that might finally explain what's going on or what's going to fix it. That's where we go, right? And that quest can feel reassuring for a little bit of time. Like if we can just dig deep enough, we'll land on the answer. But what if that instinct is exactly what keeps us stuck? Because the more we narrow in chasing the next fix, the more we feed a sympathetic dominant state, that fight or flight drive that doesn't just belong to our clients or patients. It shows up in us as practitioners too. We're on high alert, we're searching for answers, we're trying to solve the unsolvable in just one move. And here's the problem: healing doesn't happen in fight or flight. It just doesn't happen. It's one of the core things. Healing cannot happen when we're on this incessant quest for the fix or the answer. Healing requires space, safety, and the ability to access the parasympathetic state, the rest and digest, where repair is possible. So when we sustain this narrow lens, we inadvertently keep both ourselves and our clients in a reactive stance, overstimulated, anxious, and disconnected from the broader terrain that allows for healing. Can anybody relate to this? Have you been in this situation? Narrow, 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 chasing, chasing, chasing. They're anxious, you're anxious, and we're not getting anywhere. We feel stuck. So frameworks help to slow us down. They allow us to zoom out, see the multifactorial picture, and guide our clients back into a state where actual change is possible. And you're likely already familiar with the word multifactorial. It's how we describe the reality of chronic and complex illness. And there isn't one cause, but layers of antecedents, triggers, and mediators that shape what we see in front of us. And
Definitely.
this, yeah,
Alexis is saying, and then I spend hours on PubMed.
totally, exactly. And you're not getting paid for those hours. And I always
Yes.
like to tell my students, the practitioners in full body systems, that it's fine to do that research if you know it's for you. If you think it's for the client, especially before you've actually seen the client, it's not for the client because you haven't met your therapeutic partner. There's three primary tenets of a truly functional practice: therapeutic partnership, looking for the root causes, and a systems-based approach. And we're going to be looking at systems, but we have to remember that our clients or patients are our partner. And if we are just looking for the answers to their signs, symptoms, or diagnosis, we've missed the trauma informed, important piece of the picture, which is the person who has those signs, symptoms, or diagnosis. So, yeah, PubMed's fine. Research is fun. It's for us, it's not for the healing. And that's a distinction that I think is important to make.
And
Yeah.
I think like I'll give you an example in the group today. I posted a success story about how we reversed somebody's colitis, and she was a mess, chronic diarrhea, chronic bleeding, everything, and it took a while, but we did it, and now her CRP, her inflammatory markers went down to nothing. Calprotectin went from thousand over 1,000 down to less than five. So how did we do it? And the person's asking me, how did you do it? What's your protocol? And I'm thinking, everybody with that disease is going to present differently, right? You
Exactly.
need that big
Exactly.
framework to understand what to do. So it's like hard to answer that. So I'm glad you're bringing this up.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll look at that really clearly and understand how do we think about that so that we're not starting fresh all the time. We are all unique. That's part of my mantra, Lisa. And those three tenets again are a therapeutic partnership, looking for the root causes, notice the S plural there, and a systems based approach. These are my commitment to the true foundations of a functional medicine practice, which have gone away from their core. If you go to the Institute for Functional Medicine's webpage, these are their guiding principles. We've lost our way, I'm sorry to say, from those guiding principles. And the therapeutic partnership means there's always two experts in the room. You may have expertise in colitis and Crohn's and Hashimoto's and Lyme disease, but there's something else that another person in the room has expertise in. What is it? It's themselves. It's their history. It's what's worked for them, what hasn't. It's their relationship with their body, with their history, with food. When we work in protocols, we've bypassed the reality of the individual.
And I think it's coming from a Western medicine perspective. So many people, they're protocol based. You're used to that model,
Exactly.
so it's hard to switch when,
Exactly.
yeah.
A lot of the nurses and a large part of our population are coming from a nurse or dietitian realm. And this is the biggest shift that they have in the beginning of full body systems. They're very accustomed to working in a protocol, and they've recognized that the protocol doesn't serve and that it's not patient centered. And yet
Mhm.
they don't know how. And in the beginning, there's a little bit of discord, but like, wait, there's supposed to be an X for a Y. So I'm really glad you said that. And to me, this is where the practice of functional nutrition really comes into the picture. We are filling the gaps that protocols can't reach, but we're also bridging the gap between medicine's narrow focus and the patient's lived reality. So remember, the client is in the weeds of their daily life. They're figuring out what to eat, how to sleep, how to manage energy or symptoms hour by hour. And functional nutrition connects these two worlds. It expands the focus, translating the science into practice and turning a treatment plan into recommendations that are suited to the individual in the ways that they actually live, sustain, and grow with. And that's the terrain where healing happens. And this isn't just functional medicine, it's integrative medicine, it's holistic medicine, it's all medicine that may be thinking about the symptoms, and the patient is in the weeds, and we come in with an understanding that can fill the gaps. And this brings me to my mantra, which is everything is connected, we are all unique, and all things matter. That is the mantra for everything I do. And when we hold that perspective, the case that once felt like a dead end suddenly opens up. So instead of just chasing the next how, we start asking the more powerful why. And the questions that reveal connections and possibilities start to emerge. So let's look at those three tools that I promised you. The first is the functional nutrition matrix, and you're likely familiar with the functional medicine matrix. This is my adaptation of that matrix that I teach into. They are aware of it with their permission from the Institute of Functional Medicine. I feel that this helps to organize information in a more clear way, and it's something you can share with a client or patient that is ready to see the whole picture. When I look at a matrix, I am seeing the entirety of the person. So when somebody says, how did you lower the calprotectin? I can see I'm just asking a question that's in one tiny piece of the whole of the individual. And what the matrix helps me to understand is that everything is connected. That's our center part of the matrix. We are all unique. That's the left. And all things matter. And I think of that as the story, the story here, the soup, and the skill. So that's the story, the soup, and the skill. I am stepping back to see the entirety of the individual. And it helps separate the problem from the solution and organize complexity. So one of the things that I think is very important when we're addressing complex cases is that we take a pause, a synaptic pause. The very best thinkers throughout history have always separated the problem from the solution. Oftentimes in clinical care, we're conflating the problem with the solution. When we ask the question, what do I do for rheumatoid arthritis? We are conflating the problem with the solution. The matrix, which comes after an intake form and a detailed timeline, but even if we don't have that data, helps us capture what we do know about an individual so we can see them more fully. What are the things in their life that have impacted them to date? How do we see them as a whole person? So I thought I would just share two completed matrices. This is a matrix from a student who provided it for one of our client review meetings. And we require in our advanced client review meetings that students do complete a matrix so that we can see the totality when they're saying, why are they feeling dizzy when they stand up? We're not just addressing the dizziness, we're addressing the history, the candida, the fatigue, the low energy. We can see the entirety of the individual so we know where to start. We already know that they're gluten, dairy, and sugar free. So we can see that person as a whole. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with my podcast, The 15-Minute Matrix, which I'm no longer producing, but hoping to get back to. There's 376 episodes, and in that podcast, we flip the matrix and we map an actual topic. So we can look at methylation or mitochondria or histamine intolerance through this same lens. It's not just one thing. We step back, we see the whole. In all transparency, here's my matrix, right? So a matrix doesn't have to be this full, but it captures the totality of my experience so that when I'm trying to resolve something, I can see me versus seeing one problem I'm having in isolation of the rest of the situation. I understand the matrix is it's a lot to wrap your head around. And so we're going to go into some simpler systems, but I just wanted to really presence the importance of the matrix because for me, it's that clinical pause that again separates the problem from the solution. It's so healthy for our nervous systems because when we're like, oh my gosh, they want me to fix their, you name it, we lose sight of where we can bring our truly functional perspective. So
I,
I'll
I
come,
love that.
yeah.
And I'll say, having something like that, it takes a little more time in the beginning. But when you have a big patient load and you're coming back to that patient or client and you're looking like, oh my gosh, where did I leave off with that person? It's sort of like a cheat sheet of all the things going on. You can review it quickly before the session and say, oh yes, okay, this is what this person's dealing with. And it's totally worth it. I think people don't realize if you try to do things off the cuff, you're never going to be really good at what you do.
I'm
And
so
there's
glad
so
you
many
said that,
practitioners that
Jody.
do that.
Totally. And I think, in my scope, I do not diagnose, treat, or prescribe. Not part of what I do as a functional medicine nutritionist. My mother would tell me I could. My mother would tell you all that I could do that better than a lot of doctors, but that's not in my scope. What I do is what you just said: assess, recommend, and track. And so our assessments as functional nutrition counselors are very key. We do not make a recommendation until we've done those assessments, which serve us later, but they also serve us in the early phases where we can see more clearly, wait a minute, this person has a history of disordered eating. They have diabetes, and their functional medicine doctor wants them to intermittent fast and go on a keto diet. But I'm seeing that if we bring that in right now, we're going to do a lot of triggering that may not be beneficial in the long run. So, how
Mhm.
do I shift the perspective in tandem with other providers, in concert with this patient or client, so that I can know them fully before I'm just marching along with what's supposed to work. Yes,
100%.
yes. You can find the podcast at 15minutematrix.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Okay,
Okay, should I
so
go into a second system
yeah,
or framework?
please.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay, so let's just switch gears a little bit here. And I'm going to ask you, if you're here with me live, to put in the chat the kind of signs, symptoms, or diagnoses that you are seeing in your practice that you wish you could work with more acuity, that you'd love to be putting yourself out there more with. What are those that you're seeing in the world, in your practice, that you're like, I really want to help people with? SIBO, menopause, fertility issues. What comes up for folks? Anything coming up? Weight gain in middle life, so tough, Charlene, that resistant weight loss, vertigo. Yep. Yeah, just keep those coming. And as we're doing that, I'm going to tinnitus, hormonal imbalances. Yeah, so many of them. There's addiction and ADD, ADHD. There's cognitive decline. There's a lot of autoimmune issues, disordered eating, food eliminations, homocysteine issues, methylation issues. Yes, all of these things are things that we're going to see in our practice. So what I'm going to do, iron deficiency, we could keep going. I'm just going to switch gears and ask you to go into a little bit of a visualization with me. So in the beginning, I said I live in Portland, Oregon. In Oregon, we have like the best springs ever, where everything is so lush. So let's just imagine for a moment that I've invited you to come visit me. It is spring, the height of spring, and we're going to go take a hike out at the Columbia River Gorge, where the wildflowers are incredibly in bloom. They are pink and purple and yellow, and there's so much green, and it's so wondrous. And we walk into this field, and in the middle of this field, we see this old growth tree. And you are like, wow, I have never seen a tree like that. And we walk towards this tree, and as we do, we see that the leaves of the tree are kind of turning brown and falling off. The branches, some of the bark is turning black, and you're really moved. You want this tree to thrive. So we start to brainstorm and we think, should I get a ladder and we can pick off the leaves so we don't have to look at them? And then we realize that's not going to really provide us with a solution. Should we get a ladder and a saw and really start to chop off or saw off the branches that are showing unhealthy bark? And we realize that's not going to be a solution either. So we start to brainstorm and think and step back. What do we really need to do to help this old growth tree thrive? And we think, wait a minute, we got to get out of thinking about the leaves and the branches, and we have to move to the trunk and down to the roots and deeper still. Where do the roots of a tree live? Where do the roots of a tree live? Can you answer in the chat? Like literally. Not metaphorically, but literally. Yeah, in the soil. Yes, absolutely. The roots of the tree live in the soil. And so we realize that our way, our road to supporting this tree is through helping the soil. And that brings me to our next model, which is a great model to share with clients and patients, which is called three roots, many branches. And when we are seeing chronic health issues, all three roots are at play: the genes, digestion, and inflammation. There are always three roots, but there can be many, many branches. And we're going to come back to how we think about the soil that these roots live in. Those are the circles you see around. I think of these as the circles of influence. And circle of influence is a term coined by Stephen Covey, who talked about the habits of the most successful people. And these are how we support the three roots. This is the work of a functional nutrition counselor. We're not playing target practice with these things, just like you said with the client case, Jody, with digestion. We're thinking about the individual needs through the circle of influence. So all those things that we mentioned in the chat, are those soil, roots, or branches? The resistant weight loss, the Crohn's, the colitis, the Hashimoto's, the rheumatoid arthritis, the Lyme disease, the mold toxicity, roots or branches? Yes, they are branches. And when we realize those are branches, we start to shift our focus towards the roots and the soil. And this may be familiar to you. You may know of Dr. Alessio Fasana's three-legged stool of autoimmunity, the genetics, the triggers, and the leaky gut. That's aligned with the genes, digestion, and inflammation. And again, with any chronic condition, there are three roots: genes, digestion, inflammation. The branches are many. Anything we can think of that shows up as a sign, a symptom, or a diagnosis. So let's go back to that three roots, many branches model and think about just a couple of those roots and think about genes. We may think that when it comes to genes, we need genetic testing. We need to know, do they have an MTHFR or a COMP gene or what's going on? I'm going to bring us into that broader picture of the epigenetic terrain: the food, the movement, the environment, and the mindset. The broader we can think, the more we help the individual. Those genes aren't necessarily expressed, even if the genetic testing shows that they are there. And so we don't want to treat genetic single nucleotide polymorphisms as if they were conditions. They are not. They are not diagnoses. I think of them as the wallpaper. And so when we focus on the epigenetic factors, we may not have to get to the specificity. We may, but we may not have to get to the specificity of addressing something related to that particular gene. So
I'm so
again,
glad you said that because there's so many of these. Give us your genes, we'll give you a report on which supplements to take. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Try
it
to
is
simplify it
not
like that.
exactly, and that's our protocol thinking, right? We think like
Mm.
if there's these genes, there is this protocol. That is not the case when we're talking about genomics. Yeah, just a reminder there. Think of the epigenetic terrain, and that epigenetic terrain is that circle of influence around the root of the genes: the food, the movement, the environment, the mindset. Start broad, get more specific as you go. And that epigenome is so important. And it is the work of a functional nutrition counselor, which I love. I love that we get to think in that broader arena, because that's where the sustainable changes come from. When we work with people in these very narrow ways, that's very much like a diet or a diet culture that somebody can't sustain. And then they're often running on their own again, and they haven't been able to find resolution. And if we go back to the matrix, this is the realm that everything is connected. Epigenetics is the everything is connected realm, which is the right side of the matrix, what I think of as the skills. right? So that's where I want to take us to our third model. There's lots I can talk
Before
to.
we
Yes,
do, Andrea, I'm going
yes,
to interrupt you for just a
please.
second in case any of you have to go early. Andrea has been incredibly generous to this group in if any of you are interested in furthering your education. I know so many of you medical practitioners, the nutrition, the functional nutrition is a huge missing piece for you. And you will absolutely love this program. I've heard nothing but fabulous reviews about it. I don't know anybody who hasn't loved it and said it's been an incredible resource. But anyway, she's giving you all $3,000 off her program just for being a member of my groups. And I'm putting the link right here. I'll also put it on our Facebook group. If somebody's watching now, they can transfer it, or I'll try to transfer it right away. And you can just use that link to enroll in the next cohort. And when does that start, Andrea?
The end of September. And so when you do sign up through this link, you will get a course catalog. You will also get an ebook about the next model that I'm going to talk about, which is the 3 tiers to nutrition mastery, which is my epigenetic secret. And then when you speak and connect with one of our admissions advisors, let them know that you came from Jody's groups, and they will have that special $3,000 discount for you. And classes start at the end of September.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm just going to put it in the comments on the live stream as well. I'm just putting that link right
perfect.
there so y'all have
Love
it.
it. Yeah, you bet. I mean, this is my passion. This is where we fill the gaps. I believe this is how we make the biggest difference in healthcare, by sitting in this place where we can fill the gaps. We're not trying to be any other kind of practitioner. We're trying to be the clinician that people need, that just doesn't exist in enough quality and quantity out there. The number of people, I think we can all agree, that are sick and not getting better is on the rise, and the number of people who can help them isn't meeting that rise. And so this is my passion, to ensure that you can serve the people who are coming to you and needing your help and support.
And Charlene's asking, are
Yeah.
there other cohorts besides September, other times a year you can start the program?
Yes, yeah. Connect with an admissions advisor through that link, and we'll let you know all those details. And I'll also make sure you know how to ask for a little tour inside the program and all those extra things as well.
There are several joining sessions throughout the year, so they can fit you in nicely. So
Yes, yeah,
yeah.
would love to support you whenever it works for you, and understand that people are on different schedules. So, a lot of times we see the matrix, and we can work with the matrix to map a person, and we understand the three roots, many branches, like, wait, this is a branch. And that three roots, many branches model is, like I said, a great way to explain to clients and patients why your approach is different, right? They're going to be like, why can't you help me? Why can't you fix me? I want, I want, I want. I saw there was a question about getting people to do what we want them to do. Oftentimes, I think that comes more down to how we're helping them understand the distinction, because we're all used to a quick fix culture. Every single one of us is subject to all the noise we get on social media. So oftentimes people want to know, well, then where do I start? What do I do? And this is where I want to introduce you to a final model, which is what I call the 3 tiers to nutrition mastery. And I originally entitled this the 3 tiers to epigenetics mastery. So just know it is my epigenetic secret. And tier 1 are the non-negotiables. Tier 2 is deficiency to sufficiency. And tier 3 is dismantling the dysfunction. Our medical models sit here in tier 3 in the branches. That's where somebody else is doing that, right? Somebody else is targeting the branch or going for the dysfunction. Here's how we address that. What we do differently is we come at the same problem from that broader lens. And that means we're thinking through the non-negotiables and deficiency to sufficiency. These two don't need to work sequentially. There might be a deficiency that becomes a non-negotiable. But when it comes to thinking about the non-negotiable trifecta, I am always thinking about sleep, poop, and blood sugar balance. Without those addressed, we are building on quicksand. So the non-negotiables are going to be different for every single individual. But for me as a clinician and for what I teach, we have to understand the connections between sleep and the microbiome, sleep and mitochondria, sleep and histamine intolerance. We understand that it's not just like, hey, buddy, you got to sleep, but we're making physiological connections that help us understand that those are non negotiables. They may be leading to deficiencies. Deficiencies could be in hydrochloric acid or iron or vitamin D, but they could also be in joy and fun and relaxation and connection. All of these things that activate the pharmacy within, as I like to call it, that we may be overlooking as we are trying to find the fix. So the 3 tiers to nutrition mastery, there's an ebook that you will get when you sign up through Jody's link. Again, you'll get the catalog, and then you will get a little bit about my background, which I'm happy to talk about, and also an ebook on the 3 tiers to nutrition mastery. And then you can be sure to ask your admissions advisor for that discount. But I wanted to make sure you understood this system because it really does break us down, bring us back to the beginning. If somebody is dealing with an issue and they're not sleeping, they're not pooping, let's talk about hormone issues. Estrogen dominance, estrogen dominant cancers, menopausal issues. Somebody's not sleeping, they're not pooping, their blood sugar is not balanced. We are building on quicksand. And I have lots of ways that I'm teaching into those connections so we can help our clients and patients understand why those matter before we're rushing to the DIM and the bioidentical hormones and the Dutch testing. I'm not saying any of those things are bad or wrong. I love them all. I just think we often are building on a incomplete foundation. So with that all shared, and I know I kind of went through these systems really quickly, I just want to say they all work together. They're not theories, they are practical, repeatable ways to create clarity and partnership in complex cases. And while that was a whirlwind of those 3 reliable tools, I want to make sure I have time to hear from you in ways that might call me to pull one up and look at it through a lens that is really putting it to practice. So, um, would love to hear if there's any questions coming up in the group. And I see there's a question about the slides. Happy to
Yeah.
share the slides, Jody, if that is of use to folks.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
Actually, if they go ahead and click on the link, I'll put it in the chat again. Perhaps they could contact you to get the slides
yeah, I'll
through
give the
there. That would just
slides
be
to
easier.
the, yeah, I'll make sure that we give the slides.
Okay. And then I know that I'm curious for you. I know when I first started, it was rough, but how did you grow your clientele when you first started out? Because I know so many people are really interested in that as well.
Yeah, so I started really humbly. This was a big career change for me. I'm just going to give a quick backstory. I was telling Jody earlier before we went live. I lost my husband to a brain tumor, a glioblastoma multiforme, in 2002. He was diagnosed in 2000 when I was 7 weeks pregnant. And that is really what woke me up to some of the gaps in healthcare. We were living in San Francisco at the time. He was getting remarkable treatment for his brain tumor, but I saw that he, first of all, biggest gap I saw is that he was treated like his diagnosis. And he wasn't his diagnosis to me. He was a 32-year-old about to be father, my beloved husband, my soulmate. And so that was surprising to me that he was just treated like his diagnosis. The second big gap I saw is that everybody with the same diagnosis was treated the same. And that's that protocol thinking. So that was my big wake up. Isamu, my late husband, was given about 6 months to live, not expected to see our son born. He lived almost 2.5 years. So he died when our son was 19 months old. That son is 24 now. He just moved to Tokyo. So that's a long time ago. But that wake up for me is what led me to want to do this work, to find a way. And we all often have a story like that. So when I started, it was very humble. I put myself out there. I was teaching Eat to Beat Cancer classes with a friend who was a naturopathic physician. And I was the one like taking the stem out of the collard greens. And meanwhile, I was putting myself back through school, all the science I did not do in my undergraduate years because I have a BFA, I have a Bachelor's of Fine Arts. So I really was putting myself out there, learning to practice while I was learning the science. I also was recognizing that I wasn't getting taught how to work with people. I was learning science and chemistry and organic chemistry and biology and biochemistry, but it didn't translate. And I had people who were asking me for help. So it was a very humble starting. I started by teaching classes in my living room for $5 donation. I then had people asking me to help them. I went through the challenge we all go through with what do I charge? What do I do? And I just kept putting myself out there. And as I was putting myself out there, word of mouth was growing. I didn't think I would go online. I could not have imagined that I would have the great opportunity to train 9,000 practitioners in over 68 countries. It was
Wow.
very humble. It was really just doing the work and committing to if I do good work, it will grow the old fashioned way, which is word of mouth. And I just kept learning and doing and recognizing the importance of the therapeutic partnership. It took time and a lot of work.
I'm sure. That's what an amazing story, and my heart goes out to you with what you've been
Thank
through.
you.
And we've all been so affected by cancer, and that's why I think the work that we do, the toxicity piece, the sugar piece, all the things that you're talking about, the gut microbiome, I mean, cancer treatment really needs to look at these things, and unfortunately, the Western world completely misses the boat on that. And there's
Yes.
so much we can do to prevent and to reverse that, whether they opt for Western treatment or not. So
Yes.
it's a support you can give is incredible.
Yeah, and
But
I
for
think too, Jody, just to piggyback on that, it's a
Mhm.
good example of how, it's not my job to treat the cancer. It's my job to shift the terrain in which the cancer is growing. And
Mhm.
that shift, I think, is really, really important for us to understand because then we're giving a service, we're providing a scope that is so needed. A lot of people who come into this line of work think we're doing medicine with our hands on our hips, that lifestyle medicine is better. And I'm saying it's a yes and. If we're working with people with medical conditions, we're shifting the terrain into which the treatment is going, into which the cancer is growing or not growing. That's our job. It's a terrain job.
Yeah, well said. I love that. For those of us in the group that have extensive medical background, would your program actually teach them something they don't already know? Or, I mean, I guess we sort of answered that question beforehand because it's much more functional based, of course. But
Yeah, it's a great question, though. A lot of people who have a license are wondering, is this going to be repeat? And we have a great nurse resource page. We're about to create an RD resource page. We have a mental health resource page, those being people who have been through our program and been like, whoa, you put to words what I've been trying to say or think. And
Mhm.
this should be the training that is in those programs, but wasn't there, wasn't patient centered. I'm just doling out pills. So I'm just going to share screen real fast inside the program,
Mhm.
inside our learning management system. Our main modules are digestive, immune, urinary, cardio, endocrine, neuro, and reproductive. This is a 10-month course, and those are our main modules. But you're learning these things through the lens of where food meets physiology. I think of this as symbiosis. And so that's the distinction that a lot of our licensed providers say, that even if it was a repeat for them through a lens of, oh, I know anatomy and physiology, I know my A&P, I never learned it through those connections. And then it's equally accessible to people who don't have that background, because I'm teaching through story and understanding of how the body works.
That's great. And at the end of the 10 months, they get a certification as well.
Yes. Yeah, you're a certified functional nutrition counselor.
And that can lend a lot of credibility to your title when it comes to those of you who are trying to sort of piecemeal um, and doing little, doing a course here and there and not trying to put the whole thing together and have this framework. I think this just serves you so well. And within 10 months, you can finish. That's really a benefit. I know some programs can be much longer, some can be shorter and not cover enough. I think that's a really nice introduction and really getting them feel confident in their abilities and to help patients. And part of the problem I see in functional medicine is, you know, you'll take an intro with IFM, maybe the 5 week pro 5 day or whatever it is
Yes.
intensive,
Applying
which is a
functional
great
medicine. Yeah.
start. It's great that you're doing that, but
Yeah.
and then you call yourself a functional practitioner and people come to you and expect you to know a lot more than you've learned. I mean, you're going to learn. It's a great start. But and then the full program, I know it's wonderful. I'm not putting it down at all, but it can be a little disjointed in the classes from what I'm understanding, where you have it all very well systematically laid
Yes.
out
Yes.
in a
And it's all
logical
building
order.
upon itself. Yes. It's
Yeah.
very carefully curated
Hmm.
and we're building upon it. And I love that you brought up the 5 day program through the IFM. And I've been through most of IFM's training. I've had graduates go to those 5 day sessions and been like, I felt like a superstar. Like I knew how to talk about this and how to do this. And I was in a room with doctors who were then coming to me asking me questions. And it really is a big boon to be able to say, I understand these systems. I can partner with you. I can do your intakes. I can do your timelines. I can complete your matrices. I can be your partner in care. But really, that great feeling of understanding, but not taking their place, augmenting what they do. We are there to support the client or patient, but also the medical providers who we're asking way too much of.
Okay, great. Um, Jean Marie is saying, I have to pop in and say I'm a functional medicine health coach who also completed the full body systems program. That's Andrea's program a few years ago. I wanted to pop on here and listen to Andrea for a quick refresher. Her delivery of this program information is so well organized and in bite sized chunks that is similar to the way she is presenting today. I'm not affiliated in any way and still have only positive feedback for the material that was covered. Highly recommend. And this is what I've heard. I mean, over the years. And, I attended a nutrition program. That's what got me into this. And it just was, it fell so short. And what you're teaching is just so much more comprehensive. And I really appreciate it. I've just heard nothing but great things about the program. So $3,000 off for this group, folks. Click on the link, find out more about it. There's no obligation to join. Their staff is super chill,
Yeah.
but you can just find out the information and see if it's a good fit for you. And you can start right away. It's a great time to start now.
Yeah.
You can start. When does it start? September? What's the date?
It's the last Monday of September, which I'm forgetting. Is that the
That's
27th?
perfect. The
I
kids are
know.
back at school.
Exactly,
You're good to
exactly.
go.
And
Yeah.
Charlene, I see your question. First of all, if I could train the PAs, you guys, the PAs hold such important keys to the equation of healthcare. I would love to have like as many PAs as possible in full body systems, and it is a great program to help you understand how to break that down. And I love all these other programs. There's just not a competitive program for what we do. There's nothing quite like it. So I know what all these other programs do, and I do still feel like we fill a gap and give you the foundations that help you know, where do I start? How do I feel more confident with every client? And how do I build upon what I'm already doing or what I know?
I think we are always a student, and as many of you know, I've been through these other programs. I've been through a lot of programs, but I'm always going to be learning, and I love that I'm going to be attending in November as well with Andrea. So those of you who want to join me for that cohort, I'll be there. But just a couple more questions. So keep the questions coming, guys. But I'm curious, just on a personal level, Andrea, you've accomplished so much. And how do you like what guiding principles keep you focused and on track with everything you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do have a lot of mini modules inside Full Body Systems, and one of them is called Practice on Purpose. And I
Mhm.
think that notion of our why or our purpose, we have to have passion, we have to give ourselves permission, we have to have purpose at the heart, and then that persistence and perseverance. I think those 5 P's are my secret sauce personally, but the purpose, why I'm doing what I'm doing, which is really around the story I told you about my late husband, like that I saw was not okay. And I am doing this work in his name. I keep him alive through the work. I am really saying nobody deserves to be treated like their diagnosis alone. We all deserve to be treated as humans who are struggling. And so for me, it's the purpose that drives me to keep writing, keep exploring, keep learning, and going through more training. You mentioned that I'm a narrative medicine practitioner. I went through a 3 year training in narrative medicine, which helps me with the trauma, teach into the trauma informed piece as well. And so I think we have to know our why because it helps us get over the big hurdle that we think is in front of us when we're trying to practice. It wasn't for me in those early years, like I didn't know how to do marketing. And I wasn't like, I don't know how to do marketing, so I can't do it. I thought, what do I do? I like to write personally. I'm a writer. I'm going to figure out how to do this because it's that important. When a mother lifts a car off of a child, it's because the why is bigger than her strength. And I think when we can tap into that, it really does help us get over all the hurdles that we think are in our way. And I love helping people find their way to their passion. Being in the classroom, I'm in Q&As regularly. I get my nutrition team has touch points. We're there to mentor. I love that time. That is my happiest time of the week is in the classroom with people who are doing this work.
And I think so many of you here are similar that you get if you're in the right spot of where you know you were meant to be and you take the leap, and it takes courage to say, okay, I'm going to get out of Western medicine, or I'm going to increase my skill set from wherever you are in your journey. It does take courage to do that, but you get into this state of flow once you really know what you're doing. And it's like nothing can stop you. And the results you get for your clients and patients are nothing short of miraculous. And I mean, helping people that are stuck in life because they can no longer get out of bed, or they can't, function as a parent or do their job efficiently because they're exhausted and they don't feel good. You're changing the world.
Yes.
And I just feel like since now that I know better, I continue to do better and I continue to help people. And you're never going to know everything, but the more you can
You
really
don't want
increase your,
to.
yeah.
You don't want to know everything. You
Yeah.
can't.
But seriously, I mean, there are people that will wind up coming to you because, like Andrea, people heard how good she is at what she's doing, and more people keep coming. And I've built my practice word of mouth for years because of people that are happy because I've taken the time to seriously educate myself. And I continue to do it. And so, if you want to be top of the food chain in your field and really help people on a completely different level, I think this is the way to do it: is to get the education. And the nutrition piece in the medical world is so lacking. What do you have, a week of medical training of nutrition? And
17
it's,
hours
you
on
know, and
average.
then look at the American Diabetic Association. They're recommending a diet that basically gives you diabetes. I mean,
Yes.
and it's just, you know, it's absurd. But if you think you know a lot about nutrition, just learning basics in functional medicine, I think you're misinformed because I remember when I first started, I what got me healthy was like a paleo diet. And I was so paleocentric. And I remember a guy came to me, one of my first clients, who was really, really sick. He had one eye popping out of his head, twice the size of the other as a kid. And he's of Indian descent. And there's no way in heck he's going to be eating meat, right? And I'm telling him he has to eat meat. He has to eat meat. And meanwhile, he's like, no, I'm not going to be eating meat. But meanwhile, I was able to get him healthy, but it was a lot of figuring things out where if you have a framework and you know what to
Yes.
do, you can work with anybody and you'll be able to do it. But boy, was I butting heads and it was
Yes.
ugly. When I look back,
Yes.
I cringe.
Oh my gosh, but what a good story and what a good example of where
Mhm.
we get stuck on these certain ways of eating or these certain protocols and we think that's the way. And it's, these are theories, these are dietary theories, and we need to think through a different lens. So I'm just so glad to have spent this time with you, Jody. I've been wanting to spend time with you. It's such a treat to spend time with you and your community. So thank you for having me today, and I look forward to supporting you in November and hopefully others in full body systems.
Yes, thank you so much for coming in. I'm so excited to have had you here, and I hope to see many of you in the program. I hope this provided a good introduction to Andrea. Hopefully, we can have her back in the group and answer more questions. But definitely click on that link and find out more about it just to see if it's a good fit for you. And anyway, thank you all for coming, and you're getting a lot of love on the feed here. And we'll see you soon. I hopefully again. And I'll
Love
see you in
it.
November.
Yes, I love that. Thank you,
All
Jody.
right,
Thank you,
everybody, take
everyone.
good care. All right.
Bye.